Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have Dr. Coleman with us. Dr. Coleman specializes in helping services, brands drive growth and retain relevance through brand experiences, something that has come into sharp focus during these times of COVID-19. Darren's 25 plus years of gold experience spans Europe, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Japan. He has helped brands in a range of sectors, including financial services, telecoms, technology, pharmaceuticals, healthcare, fast moving consumer goods. This extensive global experience enables Darren to share key brand principles that drive growth, facilitate relevance. Johnson and Johnson's, Singapore Airlines, Dubai Properties, Maybank, Orange, PepsiCo are amongst the biggest brands he has helped. Prior to founding his agency, Wavelength Marketing, Darren completed an MA in marketing and a PhD in B2B services brand marketing. The combination of Darren's extensive commercial experience and deep subject matter knowledge means he is uniquely placed to deliver insightful keynotes that hold particular appeal for intellectually curious audiences around the globe. Darren is frequently asked to comment on brand related issues in the media, BBC and Forbes, and has published widely in the likes of WARC and Branding Strategy Insider. Darren's widely acclaimed book, Building Brand Experiences, a practical guide to retaining brand relevance, has been translated into Korean this year and will be launched in Mandarin as well during 2020. I hand it over to Mr. Coleman now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tamoy. Thank you for the introduction. So good morning from the UK and good afternoon wherever you are. I'm delighted to be here, albeit virtually, to talk about getting your COVID recovery right by using brands as a platform to drive growth. So my email and phone number are below. If you have any questions after the session, please don't hesitate to contact me. So yeah, we work with a variety of brands across Europe, the Middle East and Southeast Asia, but we specialize in helping services brands drive growth and retain relevance through brand experiences. And as we've just heard, that's come into far sharper focus during the turbulent times that COVID-19 has presented. So what do I want to achieve today? I've set myself a few objectives. I'd like to help you sell the business case for brand with greater confidence and conviction into the C-suite. I spend most of my life helping CMOs convince CFOs and CEOs to spend more money on brand. So I want to try and provide some data points and insights that will help you do this too. I want you to be able to lead brand-driven growth during COVID-19 in a streamlined, structured and scalable way. At the moment, efficiency and effectiveness are the bywords that we're hearing from clients. So I want to provide some practical advice that will help you deliver experiences in that way through brand-driven growth. I also want to help you think about how you can use your brand as a platform to drive growth. We've seen this play out very well with a number of clients, and I'll illustrate this point via some case studies. I also want to help you think about how you can reduce your exposure to capital expenditure risk through partnerships. You don't have to try to do everything to drive growth, and we're seeing a growing number of brands grow through effective partnerships where the brand is the cornerstone of that partnership success. And last but by no means least, I want you to accelerate growth during COVID-19 through on-brand roadmaps. Time and time again, we see a lot of organizations panic by launching a haphazard array of products and experiences in the marketplace, whereas really what you need to do is use your brand as the filter for product and experience roadmaps so you have a cohesive brand-driven growth strategy in place. So let's dive into it. So when we think about the context of COVID-19, if I was with you this time last year, it would be unimaginable the world is the way it is. You know, the world has been turned upside down and shaken around like crazy. So it's completely changed in a number of ways the context that marketers are driving growth. And this has been consolidated by a brand growth dilemma that I see day in, day out. So we can see from this data point, from some Gartner research amongst CMOs, that brand strategy is the priority capability within their organizations. And we're seeing this across Europe, the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and the States. So CMOs, time and time again, are saying brand is where we need to be focusing our efforts because it provides emotional security for their customers. But regrettably, the C-suite have a limited understanding of brand. Now, that's not meant to be a rude or a disparaging comment. We see it time and time again. And this data point here from the Financial Times and F-Works illustrates that point. We can see that on the right-hand side of the chart, a sizable number of executives in the C-suite have an average poor or very poor understanding of brand. And a case study that illustrates this point no better than any other I know is when 3G Capital bought Kraft Heinz for $80 billion in 2015. And at that time, Kraft Heinz embarked on an aggressive cost-cutting campaign. And we can see they bought the brand back at this point, and there was a residual effect in terms of brand equity playing through to stock value. But after a while, the equity and the value in the brand started to decline because the investment dried up. And we can see the stock value has just declined. So this is a classic example of a mentality that we see time and time again. Short-term, ROI-driven mentality that is characterized by seeing brand as a cost and not an investment. This is the challenge we see. So these are some data points now that I'd like to share in terms of putting across the business case for brand growth. So these are just some of the examples that I share with clients on a regular basis to help the CMO secure greater budgets for brand-related investments. So what this chart shows is the gradual increase in the relative importance of intangible assets in the S&P 500 since 1975. So by intangible assets, we're talking about reputation, IP, patents, copyrights, and brand. And we can see that in 2018, approximately 84% of value in the S&P 500 resided in intangible assets such as brand. So this is one way to pique the interest of the CFO and the CEO because they'll understand these types of metrics. This is another chart that tends to sway opinion with the C-suite. And what it shows is the power of brands over time. So we can see that during the last global recession, yes, the top 10 powerful brands as measured by BrandZ's index were affected by the global downturn. But what the smart brands did was double down on investment. And we can see with time, the performance of these powerful brands outpaced a number of indices around the globe. So this is another data point that I would advise that you share with the CFO and CEO to show that brand investment delivers long-term financial gains. This chart here is some ongoing research that Siegel and Gale have conducted. And it paints a very simple picture. Simplicity drives brand growth. Time and time again, we see that clients are trying to overcomplicate matters. But this chart here shows that brands that perform well on their simplicity index outperform those of brands on a number of indices around the globe. And this is something I'd encourage you to think about, especially at this time. Don't overcomplicate matters when it comes to brand-driven growth. Keep things simple in terms of positioning, your values, essence and personality, and how you bring those intangible brand assets to life. So simplicity, brands in India, and these were the results from Siegel and Gale's study in India. And Google, Amazon, Maruti Suzuki, Nokia, you can see the top 10 here. But what all these brands share is the simplicity of association. The human brain is a lazy muscle that gets tired quickly. We don't like to think too hard. This is why we have heuristics, to shortcut decisions that we make. And this is what these brands understand and execute on with absolute aplomb. Keep things simple, and that drives brand performance. So they're just some data points that hopefully will help you sway opinion when it comes to getting the CFO and CEO to invest in brand-driven growth. Now I'd like to share a practical tool that we use extensively with clients around the globe to help them structure a scalable approach to brand-driven growth. This practical management tool is called the Brand-Driven Growth Blueprint. The first stage entails understanding the corporate objectives and aligning your brand-driven growth objectives with corporate objectives. The reason being, the C-suite will be very interested in anything that can help them deliver against those corporate objectives. If your brand objectives aren't aligned with corporate objectives, your brand-driven growth endeavors will be doomed from day one. Next, you need to consider 3 areas. First, think about the target customer or stakeholders. Who are they? Profile them, psychographics. Think about the jobs they want to get done, the solutions they're looking for in their life, emotions that drive their choice, so that you can visualize them as a human. And that provides a platform for building a relevant brand, which is the central tenet. So here I'd encourage you to consider 4 intangible assets that are the cornerstones of brand-driven growth: your values, your essence, your personality, and positioning. And what you need to do at this stage is make sure that your brand is relevant and resonates with the target customer. So for example, if your brand values are about being caring, loving, sincere, and gentle, that will only appeal to customers who hold those values. Next, you need to consider the product and experiences that you want to take to market in order to drive growth. But these need to dovetail with your brand. Otherwise, you'll run the risk of launching products and experiences that off-brand, feel disjointed, and so will come across as confused in the marketplace. So for example, if your values are about being caring, loving, gentle, and sincere, then you need to think about experiential touch points that embody those values. So if a customer's got a problem, you need to be able to sort that in a caring, sincere way. This brings your brand to life. So the point here is the brand acts as a filter for your product and experience roadmap, but it also acts as a common denominator which connects your target customers or stakeholders with the products and experiences that you're looking to take to market in order to drive growth. And then last but by no means least, you need to consider measurement. And at this point, I'd encourage you to take employee, brand, and financial metrics. The reason being, based on our experience and extensive modeling with clients, we find that employee and brand metrics drive financial metrics. And that's powerful because the employee and brand metrics act as a metaphorical crystal ball that are preemptive. In other words, if employee and brand metrics are dropping, you'll have time to do something before that plays out in adverse financial performance. But if the financial metrics are dropping, you've left it too late. It's like driving and looking in the rearview mirror. So let's look at some examples of how this can play out. So the first brand, and these aren't clients of ours, I wanted to use other examples as using clients can feel a bit self-indulgent. So Baby Shop, fantastic brand, and their positioning is all about best choice at the right moment. And what Baby Shop have done is they've launched a number of products and experiences that support this positioning perfectly. So they have the My Baby Expert. This is an online chat, real time, where someone can actually speak and chat with another human being. Similarly, in store, they've got the My Baby Expert that helps the target customer make the best choice at the right moment. And to address any logistics issues they've had with products, They've got RFID codes on all products to ensure the customer can make the best choice at the right moment. These are just some simple examples of how Baby Shop's brand-driven growth has been informed by their brand positioning. Peloton is a really interesting example, and they talk about their brand being all about world-class at-home fitness. So it's fairly safe to assume that's fairly closely related with their brand essence. So Peloton make high-end equipment for the home, bikes and things like that, exercise bikes. But late last year, their campaign received an awful lot of criticism, and it was seen as sexist and dystopian. It was actually quite trite and demeaning, particularly towards women. And as we can see at this data point over here around that time, it had a marginal, if any, effect on the stock. But since that time, Peloton's growth trajectory has just been onward and upward. And what they've done is in line with this brand essence of world-class at-home fitness. They've launched apps with content. They've taken the bike to the Bike Plus. They've launched the Tread, and then they're going to launch the Tread Plus later in the year. And I've no doubt that Peloton will have other products and experiences in line to be launched that fit perfectly with this essence of world-class at-home fitness. If they didn't understand their brand essence, they wouldn't have a clear focus for this brand-driven growth via the products and experiences they're taking to market. So in terms of B2B, stretching into B2C, CAT's personality has been associated with being rugged and robust and durable. So they have heavy dumper trucks and earth-moving equipment, power generators, and then they started licensing their brand into clothing and more recently mobile phones and watches, for example. But CAT have been able to do this because all of the products that express their personality are robust, rugged, and durable. This enables CAT to grow by licensing their brand through third-party relationships. But it's not just about products as an avenue for driving growth. And Red Bull and GoPro provide an example here. So it's fairly clear that both of the brands are about adrenaline-fueled experiences. In other words, that's a proxy for their brand essence. So Red Bull has conducted stratospheric PR stunts where people are jumping out of things close to the stratosphere. They've got content partnerships with Red Bull Media, but they're also now having exclusive partnerships in F1. But the point is that both brands are all about adrenaline-fueled experiences. So it's a great fit without cannibalizing each other's growth. If they hadn't clearly understood and articulated their brand essence, they wouldn't be able to form these types of partnerships. And as you can see here from the founder and CEO of GoPro, excuse me, GoPro and Red Bull as a match are as good as it gets. So the brand fits because GoPro can capture these adrenaline-fueled experiences that Red Bull is becoming an expert at delivering. Another brand that started to leverage partnerships is Procter & Gamble. And what they've done is they've started to partner on events and experiences and content partnerships that fit with their values. So for example, more recently, we've got here Queen Latifah's first film. It was a way that Procter & Gamble could champion their support for female directors. And as we can see from the quote on the right-hand side here, Mark Pritchard, you're seeing more and more brands who are producing very engaging content that expresses the values of those brands. So what we're seeing here is the types of partnerships that Procter & Gamble is choosing to pursue are filtered through their values and other facets of their brand. And that provides the platform for driving growth. So how does this work with the blueprint? So all of these campaigns will have had objectives, but for the Baby Shop, we can see it was the best choice at the right moment. So at the center, that facet of their brand, the positioning, they use that as it's relevant to the target customer. But at the same time, they use that positioning to guide and inform the products and experiences they took to market to enable them to execute on that positioning of best choice at the right moment. If they hadn't clearly articulated that brand positioning, making those decisions wouldn't have been possible. Peloton, brand essence, world-class at-home fitness. So again, understanding that essence and how it resonated with the target customers also provided a guiding principle for the products and the experiences that it could take to market. So the bike is all about world-class at-home fitness. Same for the Bike Plus, but it also enabled the brand to move into new product launch spaces by launching the Tread Plus, and also the app and the content that they flush through that app. It all fits perfectly with world-class at-home fitness. CAT started out B2B and has moved its brand into a B2C space as well. So the personality was about robust, rugged, and durable associations. So those sorts of associations had self-expressive value to the target customers. But also as well, by understanding that personality, it enabled CAT to launch products and experiences that were on brand. So the phones that they've taken to market were rugged and durable. They weren't sleek and slimline and premium feeling. The watches they took to market, again, were robust and rugged and durable. But they managed to grow through third-party relationships. GoPro, Red Bull, it was all about adrenaline-fueled experiences. That appeals to both of their target customers, but also provides a platform for them to launch co-branded experiences and products. If they weren't clear on the scope of their respective brands, they wouldn't be able to have this marriage made in heaven. And then we looked at Procter & Gamble and how they're using their brand values to filter the types of partnerships that they engage with. So they've used their values as a mechanism to determine the types of brands that they want to partner with. And we looked at an example of how they're keen to support female directors in the film space. So these are just a few examples of how brands have driven growth over the years and more recently by using their brand as a platform to drive growth. The brand filters the products and experiences they take to market, but it also acts as a common denominator for connecting with the target customers or other stakeholders as the mechanism for driving growth and achieving corporate objectives. So I just want to finish off with some influential quotes. This one from Janet Hull, Director of Marketing Strategy at the IPA. From our analysis of the IPA data bank, which contains quantitative data from 15,000 advertising and marketing effectiveness case studies, spanning almost 40 years, we know that brand building lies at the heart of sustainable, profitable growth for business. So if you get the chance, I would encourage you to look at the IPA database. There's a treasure trove of case studies, data-driven case studies that show how brands drive growth. And here from Les Binet and Peter Field. Brand building dominates long-term growth and involves the creation of memory structures that prime consumers to want to choose the brand. In other words, salience. This priming effect also improves pricing power and so over time has a strong impact on profitability. Again, if you haven't, I'd really encourage you to look at the influential work of Les Binet and Peter Field. So I set myself a couple of objectives and I just want to revisit them. So hopefully now you feel a bit more confident for selling the business case into brand. We looked at a number of data points there from the S&P 500, simplicity, and also the perils of being ROI driven, with Kraft Heinz being a case study for that point. Hopefully now you can think about how to lead brand growth in a streamlined, structured and scalable way. And that's by using the Brand Driven Growth Blueprint. This is a practical management tool that will help you get brand driven growth right. So now hopefully you can see how to leverage your brand as a platform to drive growth. The brand acts as a filter for driving product and experiential roadmaps. I'd also like to think that you can see how you can minimize your exposure to CAPEX risk by growing through partnerships. And this is what the likes of Red Bull and Procter & Gamble have been doing. But you'll also be able to accelerate growth during COVID-19 through on-brand roadmaps. So if you're clear about your brand, then you'll be able to work with third parties or white label product or experiential providers and launch products under your brand or co-branded. That's far quicker than taking all of the time to do the R&D yourself. So if you're interested in learning more about the Brand Driven Growth Blueprint and how that can be used as a practical management tool, I've written a post on LinkedIn, an article, to support this. The link is above there and you'll see it. Please have a look. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and ask me. And that's it. Keep in touch. There's my email and phone number. I'll be very happy to hear from you if you have any questions. And I think we've got time for some questions now. And the best question, I will send you a soft copy of my book. So thank you for your time and over to the Q&A.
All right. So, Mr. Coleman, that's a great motivation for winning your book. And thank you so much for getting your, stats right and throwing some light on leveraging brand-driven growth. We have some questions with us. And the first question which I would like to highlight is that as governments, moved quickly from flatten the curve, it appeared that it was the growth curve that flattened. Now, with rapid unlocking of industry and life around the country, how best can brands enforce consumer trust and how important is it in your business decision?
Yeah, without trust, there's nothing. So this is a smart question because at the moment, consumers are feeling a bit fragile. We're all feeling fragile. So building trust is a smart move. A very good way to build trust is to show your heritage. And there's some brands in India with fantastic heritage. So a cost-effective way to do that is wheel out adverts that you've played 5, 10, 15 years ago to show that you have heritage. Build campaigns that show how your brand has been there for your target customers over the years, if not decades. And that will give a sense of security and inspire confidence and trust. So that's how I would do it.
Okay, great. So let's go ahead with the next one. With social distancing, there is perhaps a greater reliance on conversational tools and chatbots to interact with consumers.
Yes.
Isn't the element of personalized communication and quality of service lost in the process?
Sorry, I didn't catch the second part of the question.
What I'm trying to ask, isn't the element of personalized communication and quality of service lost in the process?
Of social distancing. Well, there's two things happening here. First, personalization has received quite a lot of criticism recently because it's not a key driver of growth. And you start to see a number of big brands turning away from personalization. I'd encourage you to have a look at the influential work of Byron Sharp out of the Ehrenberg Bass Institute of Marketing in Australia. And they talk about distinctiveness and reach as the primary drivers of growth as opposed to segmentation. So whoever asked that question, I'd encourage you to look at that research, to think twice about personalization. The second point around the human touch and service, yes, I can understand that point, social distancing, but you've still got the ability to give your experience a human touch, digital tools by face-to-face contact and things like that. And at this time, as we've seen with the Body Shop there, with online contact, being able to connect at a human level is a powerful strategy because we're all feeling a little bit fragile at the moment. So having that security of reaching out and connecting with another human taps into some of our basic human needs.
Okay, great. So the next question is, should brands, continue to monitor and control important market effects such as price, accessibility, and product range, while rethinking traditional approaches to maximize sales?
Yes, is the upshot of that. And what I would encourage whoever asked me that question is to look at the importance of brand response campaigns. And this has come out of the research of Les Binet and Peter Field and their marketing effectiveness. And brand response campaigns look at finding a balance between longer term emotive brand building spend and shorter term brand response campaigns that push people over the line to actually make a purchase or do something. And I'll give you an example from here closer to home in the UK, which hopefully will be understandable. Lloyds Bank has been doing a lot of work around its brand, and Lloyds Bank uses a black stallion as its key distinctive brand asset. And a black stallion has strength, stamina, and things like that. So they're using that association at this time. But in parallel, for the response elements, they're doing a lot of direct communications to encourage customers to go and buy or sign up for certain products. So it's a bit of a combination of the two. And there's a rule of about 60-40, 60% investment in brand, 40% investment in response. But more recently, that's become more nuanced. So I would encourage you to look at Les Binet and Peter Field's research on effectiveness in context, because depending on the industry that you're in, the balance of brand investment and response investment varies. But the general rule initially was a 60-40 brand activation spend, but it's a bit more nuanced than that now. But yeah, I would keep going with the two, but find a balance between brand and response. But have a look at Binet and Field, their research, and that will help you. And if you're stuck, drop me a line and I'll send you that research.
Wow, that's great. So we have a lot of questions coming up. I'm sorry, but I'm going to trouble you a bit. The
No,
next
no, my
question,
pleasure.
the next question which we have from one of the organization is that, you know, should brands use changing market, or can brand leverage trust as a competitive differentiator at this time?
Sorry, I'm not clear on what the question is.
Should brands use changing market, and what do you think? Can brands leverage trust as a competitive differentiator at this time?
I wouldn't say it's a differentiator. I would say it's a necessity. If a brand can't trust you, you've got no chance. So that's why the other question about going back on your heritage and bringing your values to life and things like that. If people don't trust you, especially at a time like now where the world has been turned upside down, if people don't trust your brand, you've got no chance of even having a conversation with them. So it's not a point of difference, it's a point of necessity. If someone doesn't trust you, they won't engage with your brand, and you won't even have the chance to sell them anything. So yeah, no trust, no business.
All right. So one last question which we have is like, how important is it for brands to go local in the current business scenario?
It depends on the nature of your business, and it depends to the extent to which it's digital, and it depends on how cultural your business is. So, for example, things like food are very cultural, and I'm aware that even within regions of India and Asia Pacific, there will be different tastes. So, and it's about how much you can afford to go local with your experiences. Um, and it comes back to this brand response. So at one stage, brand is about volume, get the message out. and make sure that your values and your brand resonates across segments. But then it's at the response level where you start to think about more focused campaigns. So my advice would be to do less well, and that's what we're seeing with clients that are performing well at the moment. They're not trying to do everything, they're doing fewer things well, and they're using data and analytics to fine tune their marketing so it's both effective and efficient. So work closely with your insight departments or your market research teams or research agencies to really understand what's driving choice and what's making your brand relevant, and then really focus on those as the platform for growth right now. Yeah.
Okay, great. One final question. I'm sorry, this was a request coming up. Uh, how can business leaders leverage brands as a powerful platform to drive growth in existing or new categories and markets?
Um, in the ways that I just hopefully explained in some of these examples. So the first thing is you need to have clearly understood and articulated your brand, and at a basic level, that means you need to have values, essence, personality, and positioning. So the good news is if you've got those things, you've got a brand, and then you should use those as a filter for products and experiences that you take to market. But if you haven't got those four things, I would take a step back and think about really understanding and articulating your brand, because if you haven't, you won't have the platform to build the product and experiential roadmaps on. So it'd be like building a house on bad foundations. But if you have got the brand articulated, then before it comes to taking a product or experience to market or thinking about that, come up for air and think about how relevant it is to your brand. So Peloton, they're launching the Tread and the Tread Plus, and that's a perfect fit for their world-class at-home exercise essence. So I would encourage you, before you do anything in terms of taking a new product or experience to market or moving into a new market, come back and assess how relevant what you're thinking of doing is to your brand, because otherwise you'll have a really fragmented and haphazard product or experiential portfolio in the market, and that will confuse your customers and stakeholders, and if they're confused, they'll back off, and that'll do more damage than good. And that's why I say do less well. Do less well at the moment and focus on things that really are relevant to your target customers, because your brand and that facet of your brand is relevant to them.
All right. Thank you so much from all of us for answering all the questions, and it was a wonderful session. And I'm sure there are a lot of takeaways which our audiences had. And I have personally attended a few of your sessions which you did with us, and it was really encouraging, really motivating, and I had been trying to implement few of them in my own department as well. And
Good.
thank you so much once again, and thank you for giving your precious time. And you will have a wonderful day ahead.
Brilliant. Thank you for inviting me, and take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Enjoy the con. Bye bye.
Yes. Bye bye. Bye.